dear students in grade 6. This is Miss Monaya talking to you. How are you? I hope you're fine. In our session for today, we're going to learn how to write a book report. A book report is a paper that you write or a piece of writing that you prepare based on a book you have read. This book report is a way to express your opinion about the book that you have read thoroughly. And in this report, you're going to say specifically what are the things that you have liked about the book, or which character in the book you like the most. But specifically, follow with me closely to know what writing a book report is all about. First, writing a book report can have many forms. I can either uh, write a book report that is based on the plot summary of the story, and by plot summary I don't just mean the summary of all the events that took place in the book, but I need to explain my opinion of the story and why do I feel that the plot is interesting, or why it has some unrealistic events or parts. And it is the way we analyze the plot or discuss all its various parts that will make our book report a good one. I can also write another effective type of book report by focusing on character analysis. Character analysis is when I decide to choose certain character from the story to explain and talk about. I can choose to explore the physical or the personality traits of a certain character. Physical traits, I will describe how the character looks, how does he carry himself about in the story, what physical features, shape, size, physical strength, muscular build, what type of character is that. And by personality traits, I talk about the traits or characteristics that specialize that person. Is he a good person? Does he have a kind heart? Is he a villain or an evil person in the story? Another effective book report would be to focus on the themes in the story or the major ideas that are expressed. What I mean by theme is a main idea or a big idea that runs throughout the story. Uh, if I want to give you a closer example, uh, take one of our stories, for example, The Fisherman and His Soul, the one we read recently together in class. In that story, love is one of the major themes. Why? Because the fisherman falls in love with the mermaid at the beginning of the story, and all the actions in the story or all the events revolve around the fisherman's love for the mermaid. So love is one of the main ideas or themes in the story. And if I want to write a book report about that story, and I want to include the big ideas that are mentioned in this one and this story that we're talking about, I have to focus on a theme that I feel is important for the story, and that would make my report easier to write. Before you start writing your report, you have to explain exactly what theme you'll be exploring, and you have to use examples or quotations from the story that prove this theme. But first, let's go over one main idea before we continue. Why do I write a book report? I write a book report to help me practice giving an opinion about different aspects, such as the author's use of description or dialogue, or I can also give my opinion about the actions that the characters make in the story, or any other major point in the story. When I want to write a book report, I have to follow certain tips or clues in order to give my report all the qualities that would make it a successful or a good report for people to read. no matter what type I decide to read, if I decide to write a plot summary or a character analysis report or a book report based on theme, I have to make sure that there are basic elements I need to include in order to convey why the book, or to show why the book was interesting to read. Let's see what are these tips. Let's start with the things that should always be present in any book report. The type of book. What type of story is that? Is it a comic book? Is it a romantic story? Is it an action filled adventure? What type of book? It should also include the title of the book and the person who wrote it, or the author. The book report should also include the setting of the story, the time and the place where the story happens. These are the basic elements. Let's move on to other um, basic elements that I have to read: the names of the characters in the story and a brief description of each. Even if I'm not writing a plot summary, I have to include these aspects, because if a person wants to read my book report, he has to know who are the characters we're talking about. And when I express my opinions about the story, I have to support that with quotations, parts of the story, or examples to prove what I'm talking about. It is also good to keep in mind that when I want to talk about a part that I enjoyed or hated reading the most, I have to keep the reader motivated about the story by not disclosing all the aspects in the story. The whole purpose of this action is to keep the reader interested or motivated, and to compel them, to make them go and get the story in order to read it and know what is the thing that happened at the end. If you remember, okay, after you finish writing the book report, you have to make sure you have to remember to go over your report and check it for spelling and grammatical mistakes, because that would add to the uh, overall grade or overall appreciation of your report. If you write words wrongly, that would prevent the ideas you're trying to express from being expressed clearly. So after you finish, go over and make sure you don't have any spelling or grammatical errors. And now you can practice by writing a book report about one of the stories we have read this year, starting with Little Women, The Time Capsule, The Green Room, or The Fisherman and His Soul. And if you wish, you can just choose any book you've read recently and you've enjoyed and write a book report about it. Thank you.